Hey, what's going on, everyone? As most of you know, I read a lot of science books, especially kind of in that biology, conservation, ecology vein. And after you read a bunch of them, after you get going through them, the gloom and doom kind of does take a toll, toll on you after a while. So it is really nice when eventually you can kind of come across a book that's a little more on the opposite side of things there. And we have The Call of the Honeyguide, What Science Tells Us About How to Live Well with the Rest of Nature by Rob Dunn. And Basic Books was kind enough to send me a copy of this. They've actually sent me quite a few things in the past, so just like I said, shout out to them. And I've read one other work by Rob. It was Every Living Thing, which is kind of a history of, I guess, the history of taxonomy as a practice. And this one, as you could probably guess from the title, is sort of all about mutualism and symbiosis with the living world. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Like I said, not only do you hear about like the gloom and doom stuff, but even with things that are more just purely, no human environmental aspect of it at all. A lot of times, a lot of research, a lot of books, a lot of documentaries and stuff focus on the kind of the red and tooth and claw predatory, predation, all that kind of stuff as kind of like the main aspect of things. So it was really, like I said, it was really refreshing to have kind of a different, I guess, a different topic and lens to look at things. So we'll just start in just with like the title. For those who don't know, the Honeyguide. The Honeyguide is a species of bird from Africa that has developed its own symbiotic mutualism with humans as well as a couple other species, where they will seek once they find a large honeycomb that they can't they can't take out out the bees and stuff themselves. They'll alert usually humans. Over the past like several thousand years, they will go alert them with their whistling call and stuff. And then together, the honey guide, will lead the person to the honeycomb, and then they kind of share in the spoils of the honey and then the wax, especially for the honey guide. And what's interesting is if this behavior isn't reciprocated, as Rob Dunn puts it, the honey guides no longer call because humans no longer listen. And that sort of behavior just kind of atrophies and disappears from the world. And he kind of hints at, how many of hundreds or thousands of these sort of scenarios and behaviors and symbioses that we've had with other species have we kind of like lost over time because we just don't listen well anymore. Some of the other themes of the book is sort of domestication. Dealing with who domesticates who in a way. I really enjoyed how the author puts a lot of the time from the other organisms. I was going to say animals' perspective, but one of the big ones in the book is actually yeast, dealing with fermentation and stuff of alcohol. So how, from the other organisms' point of view, yeast almost could claim to effectively have domesticated humans to kind of develop the enzymes and stuff to metabolize alcohol through mutations and everything. So the yeast can proliferate through alcohol and whatnot, alcohol making process, which I found that like just kind of really interesting. But I think in a way too, the author kind of is kind of describing how our vocabulary is almost so limited. We talk about symbiosis and mutualism and stuff. If you just take that in terms of like, the number of offspring that are created and stuff to kind of show if the mutualism is working, like if you look at like, factory farming and stuff, like obviously apparently cows and chickens and stuff are doing really well, but it's like, are they really? So he kind of hints that we need like different sort of metrics or benchmarks, to show like if a mutualism is successful, such as well-being, longevity, that kind of thing. And I do, like I said, I do appreciate like all that kind of stuff. The book does kind of he starts to kind of veer and hint at like some ethics and philosophy and that kind of thing without any real concrete like signposts, I guess. And I thought that was a little bit like kind of on the weaker side as compared to kind of like I said, like the earlier kind of these are practices that we did have, that we know of, how those work, domestication of different kinds of things, even like the ancient, like I said, the ancient yeast and stuff. I thought all that stuff was really good. But when he kind of like starts hinting at more like future possibilities with like animal communication and There are some things that we are like trying to do, like, making like building supplies out of fungi, stuff like that. A couple other things. It's right now it feels like that's definitely kind of more on like that's really only accessible to a very small segment of the population, financially and that kind of thing. So it felt just kind of a little off. I will say the author does a great job kind of bringing in like quirkiness, humor, lots of like really nice tangents into like culture, literary stuff, arts and sciences and everything, into like kind of just like his writing in general. Like for example, one of the earlier chapters too, the Epic of Gilgamesh is kind of used as a case study, with the guardian of the Lebanese forest, of Humbaba and stuff, and kind of going on about kind of that relationship that humans had with kind of the cedar forest and stuff, in the ancient Near East and stuff. I thought it was, like I said, overall I really really enjoyed this book, and I think if you like this one, another one to try would be Kristen Olsen's Sweet in Tooth and Claw. That one is ostensibly kind of on the same topic about animal cooperation and stuff. Though that's kind of more from that's more like if you pan out and look at more of like a global kind of thing from what I remember when I read it a couple of years ago. Wasn't quite as into the nitty gritty and stuff that I liked in this one, but like I said, I think that would be one to try out if you wanted something in a similar vein. So like I said, I want to say thank you to Basic Books for sending me this copy, and I will be kind of looking out for some of his other books. I think he's got quite a few. Like I said, I read the one on taxonomy, but it looked like he had like a small list here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this would be his 8th book. So I'll definitely be on the lookout for more, and I might take a look at a few of his other works. I think he does really, like I said, he does really well when he's dealing with like a lot of the literature, cultural, art kind of aspects as well. He's got a book apparently on like food. It's called Delicious and stuff. So I think that'll be kind of an interesting one to go check out as well. So like I said, thank you so much to Basic Books. Hope you enjoy whatever you're reading, whether it's this one or not. And always remember, read victoriously.